Hey, it's Jesse with Local SEO Tactics. Welcome back for part 2 of our 2-part episode on basic SEO for creating web pages. Going to be talking about headlines, page text. We've got some great best practices and some pretty cool tools that we use that I think are going to help you out for how to write your web pages and create that content. And like we mentioned last week, I want to encourage you to take some notes and make sure you're writing down some actionable items. This isn't the sexiest topic, but it is the nuts and bolts that's going to make a difference for your business. So stay tuned. Should be some great content for you, and we'll catch you on the back end. The next area we want to cover for on-page content is your headlines for your site, right? I had an art teacher in high school, and what he had said always is, if you're doing a painting or a drawing or whatever it is, if you maybe just squint a little bit so things are out of focus and fuzzy, whatever pops out to you should be the primary thing you want people to focus on, right? Same concept is true for your websites. Steve Krug, he has a book, Don't Make Me Think.
It's a great book.
What's the other one? Rocket. It's not Rocket Surgery, I think is the name of the other book.
Yeah.
Excellent reads. Nice, easy, quick reads too. Definitely recommend them to everybody out there. But we did some training with him for the Don't Make Me Think class, and his main point was somebody, if they only read the headlines and the bullet point of your website, they should get the gist of the message, right?
Right.
Just like with my art teacher's example of, if you squint and only make out, whatever is coming through as the primary thing of your painting, same thing with your website. Most people aren't going to read your entire web page, right? A good web page should have about 2,000 words on it. It's a lot of words to write. It's a lot of words to read. We don't read all those words. We look for the headlines and the bullet points that are germane to what it is we're on this page for. Might read that paragraph or two.
Yeah.
And if you're super intrigued by it, hey, yeah, then you might finish the rest of those 2,000 words. But those headlines are extremely important.
Yeah, it just comes down to, can these people help me? Great, they can. I'm going to call. Or
right.
What have you.
Absolutely. So from a usability standpoint, those headlines are very important because those are going to be the things that jump out, the things you may use to kind of scan the page to decide where you're going to stop and read more information. So they need to be very germane. Again, if we're talking about oil changes and service to that, if we're talking about oil changes and services to your automobile, make sure if you're on a page that's talking about oil changes, that's your lead. Don't bury the lead. Again, talking above the fold, right when you're on that page, it should be talking about oil changes. Talking about conversion to get them to be a customer. Throw your price in there, throw your speed in there, right? It's either time or money that we make decisions on for conversions. But speak to people directly. Don't make them think about what this is for. Don't make them interpret what you're trying to say. Just punch them right in the face. Give the same advice we gave on the quality of your images. If you're not sure if you type this up right, put it out there for people to check. Ask your friends and family. Hey, read this page real quick. What is it that I do? What is it I'm trying to promote here? You know what I mean? And again, this is true of your homepage and all the other pages on your website. Second reason those headlines are extremely important is Google and search engines also know that they're very important to us humans, so they give them more weight, right? So if you have just a regular sentence on your page, just part of your regular body, that's going to carry a certain weight. If you have a headline, that's going to carry a lot more weight in Google, right? So choose your words wisely, choose your phrases wisely. Whatever keywords and phrases you want to be found for, make sure they're in the headline, right? Now within the headline, there's a subset here, right? There's H1, H2, H3, which stands for headline 1, headline 2, headline 3. And the normal convention for your website is your H1 is going to be your biggest and also the one up on top. If you compare this to a traditional newspaper, it's the huge headline on top. That's the H1.
Right.
That should be the most important words on the entire page, right? That's where they're biggest and they're right there at the top. Now you're only going to want one headline. This is something that people sometimes try to take advantage of, and it can hurt you. Again, if you go back 5 years or so ago when it was easier to kind of game the system, you could do this kind of stuff. But today, Google and the search engines are a lot smarter. You can't just have H1 headlines all the way down your page. If you're using WordPress or traditional HTML editing software, you can usually highlight the text and just go up there to format and say, what is this going to be? Is it a H1? Is it H2 or headline 1, headline 2? That you're going to use that kind of terminology. Good rule of thumb is you have one H1, one headline one per page. You don't have two. If you have other areas that need highlighting and you want to kind of call them out as important, that's what your H2 and your H3, 4, 5, and 6, so on down the line, are for. And the usual convention is, when you go from a 1 to a 2, the H2, it's a smaller headline, right? H3 is even smaller from there. So the size and the prominence of those comes into play with how that naming convention is. You're going to want to have one H1. You can have multiple H2s and multiple H3s, but use that same kind of, pyramid deal, right? You're not going to want to have one H1 and 7 H2s. There's just no way those 7 subsections on that page are all equally important.
Right.
Try to put some thought into it.
And Google's algorithm is picking up on all this, right? I mean, they want you to play by their rules, and when you start messing with their rules, they get upset about that.
Absolutely. They can tell if people are trying to cheat the system and
Right.
be spammy. So there's no hard and fast rule here, but if we had to throw out, kind of a real quick recommendation, I'd have one H1, maybe 2 or 3 H2s. I wouldn't go over that. And then the rest are going to be H3s and H4s. Again, that's not any kind of hard and fast rule, but just think about it as us users. I mean, you look at a newspaper or a magazine and you'll notice the different sizes and fonts, or different web pages even too. We don't have to reference paper material.
Right.
But just kind of look and you'll see there's always one thing that jumps out, maybe 2 or 3 other things that jump out next, and then a bunch of smaller sections from there. And that's what these tags are for. All these tags are important. You're definitely going to want to have H1, H2, and H3 tags, or headlines, I should say, on every page of your website, at least one of each, because you're sending a signal to the search engines that this is a very important sentence or phrase on my page, and use it. If Google's going to give you credit for tagging these as H1, H2, H3, pick content on your page to utilize that. Now, what you don't want to do is repeat. You don't want to have duplicate content. So you can't say best oil changes in town as a H1 headline tag.
Right.
Have that lower on the page. Best oil changes in town as an H2. You got to do something different. If you want to mix in the word oil changes and things like that in there, that's fine. Just to be clear, we're not talking about the exact same phrase, right?
So this may be a naive question. So
Yeah.
what does a typical local small business service business have for a number of pages on its website? I mean, is this something that you're doing this on 20 pages, or doing it on 200? You're doing it?
Yeah. Well, you're doing that on every page.
Yeah.
Period. This is kind of, again, an SEO 101 deal. If you're going to make a page, these are the basic things you want to apply. But for a business, just how many pages does my web site need? You can have your homepage, right? You're usually going to have some kind of about us or contact us page. And then from there, I would say you're going to have at least 1, 2, or 3 products or services you're offering. They should each have their own unique page. Speaking as a bare minimum here, so you're up to somewhere around 6 pages. Now from there, you may expand on some of those pages, maybe get some variations. If we're doing the auto repair service center, we do oil changes. We also do radiator repair, transmission. I mean, break each of your services down. Don't just have a page that says services. Right. You can have a hierarchy from there too. You can, on your top menu of your website, have a button that says services, and then from there they can choose the different services you have, right? But really the number of how many would it grow to is infinite. You can have millions of pages on your website.
Okay.
Most businesses, I would say small local service businesses, like we work with, you might have 100 pages. Some companies are going to have 700 or 800 pages. And that sounds kind of scary, I know, for that amount of content, but that's developed over years.
Right.
And that's putting out very specific content. I mean, talking about oil changes on a Toyota, talking about oil changes on a Dodge and things like that. Some of that can be a little overkill. And again, if you're duplicating your content, that can really cause you some trouble, because Google is seeing that all you're doing is copy and pasting the same thing, but just changing Toyota to a different brand each time. So I don't want to confuse people there and just say that you got to push out a bunch of content. But at the end of the day, just think about the different revenue streams you have, the different services that you offer. And again, to answer that question, you should have a page, a unique page for each one of those. And I would say that would be how many pages I want to have, right, for your business. No less than that, because that's your brochure. People aren't usually going to call you and ask you what you do, right? Or say, can you send me some information? We want to go get it ourselves. That's why we're on the website. That's why we're exploring. You should have the ability for them to bump into everything that you offer. So,
okay. So, I mean, that's a whole nother strategy we'll get into as far as creating pages and landing pages, if you will, for, again, if you're an auto shop and you decide you're going to work on Land Rovers or Rolls Royce, you're going to create a page for that
right.
specific type of business that you really want to get.
Yep.
And do everything to optimize it.
Right.
And you know, as business owners, you can do that. You can pick out the items or the types of services that you do and create a page from that.
Right. Kind of an easy hack that we do and we recommend to everybody is, if you're unsure, maybe what pages should I be putting out there? And then even further, if you're unsure of what should my page say, you know, what kind of layout, what is important, what should I emphasize? Search, check out your competitors. There's companies large and small out there that are competing in the same space as you, and check different markets as well too. But piggyback on what other people are doing. You don't have to copy them. I'm not saying, you know, definitely do that, but see what some common threads are, right?
Yeah, and we've gone out to other markets too, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we're here in the No Coast, Minneapolis, and we've gone out to bigger markets and did searches and examined sites in very competitive or hyper-competitive markets like Los Angeles and San Diego and Dallas and Atlanta. And you'll begin to see certain trends and certain things that people are doing well, and you probably want to emulate that.
Yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Do some searches, see what's ranking high, check out those websites, make some notes about what's sticking out to you, and that gives you a great template to start with.
Yeah.
So, and again, you always change it later. So
Right.
don't be afraid. Don't put too much, hard thought into it and make it slow you down. Get something out there. The last topic for today's episode is going to be your page text, right? So we're talking about adding some images to your website, putting some headlines on your website. Now you actually have to, type out some paragraphs and some sentences for people to read if they choose to read them. This is also a very important area of your page and for your SEO strategy. Good rule of thumb is try to get 2,000 words on the page. There's lots of word counting websites and software out there that can make it easy. You don't have to actually count the pages. You don't have to actually count the words yourself. We'll put in the show notes some links to some of those free services that you just copy and paste your web page once you've published it. They'll analyze it. They'll tell you, how many words are on the page. They'll also give you scores and marks for grammar and punctuation and things like that too. Super cool. You want to put your best foot forward, right? I'm horrible at spelling and grammar, so I've got these links saved. Yeah. It'll be very easy for us to compile this. But you definitely want to have 2,000 words on your page. This is a newer thing that's probably more important in the last 6 months than it was before. Google wants quality content, right? They don't want a website that's a mile wide and an inch deep. You got to have some mass there. I mean, there needs to be some content. So that can be pretty challenging. 2,000.
So their algorithms are getting smarter. So like you
Absolutely.
said, in the past, you could more or less just kind of put out whatever you wanted to put out, and it made no sense, right, for the most part. But now they're getting much smarter with their algorithms. It's got to have grammatically correct. It's got to make sense.
Yep.
And their tools are allowing them to see if you're, again, gamifying the system or spamming the system. So we're not trying to scare you in terms of writing your content, but it's just got to make total sense in what you're writing and have a flow to it. And that's a whole nother topic, I suppose.
We got another episode coming up in a few weeks that's going to get into copywriting and how to do some creative writing. Some really cool tools that are out there to help you kind of jumpstart that. But that's a big topic in itself. But just some quick rules to live by is try to get 2,000 words on there. And like Bob's saying, the algorithm, things are pretty smart. You can't just mash a bunch of incomprehensible stuff together and it's got your keywords. That's not going to work.
Right.
Google now, when they're reviewing this, they are making sure that it's readable, that humans can actually read it. You can't create a page just for the search engines to see your keywords and try to get rankings. Google's not gonna let you play. They want a page that a user can get to, read, navigate properly, understand, and digest. So you need quality content, not just deep content and a lot of words on your page. So again, not a lot of us small business people are great wordsmiths, or creative writers. So it can be challenging to sit down and write up an essay, essentially like that. get out, see what the competition's doing, see what kind of main points they're focusing on. If you're breaking out into needing to write paragraphs about little subtopics, it becomes a much easier exercise to do than to say, I need to create a page with 2,000 words on it. Break it into chunks, try to find out what things people are talking about, and just take it in small bite-sized pieces. So write your content, get your pages out there. Again, keep in mind why you're writing this. What keywords and phrases are you wanting to be found for? And what are you wanting to communicate to the people that are reading this and that are there? Incorporate that, right? It's a good idea to type all this up, look at it, and then go back in after you've written your page and you got your 2,000 words on your page. Then think about what is the exact things I'm trying to communicate and get across here, and just then wordsmith it, right? I always find that's easiest for me is just dump it all out there, then go back, read it, maybe change some words. Again, if we're talking oil changes, make sure you got that in there maybe 3 to 4 times. You have it in the headline, maybe in an H1, maybe in another H2 or H3, and then mix that word oil change in there 3 to 4 times on the page in various talking points. In addition to that, again, the Google algorithm is extremely smart. There's words that are related to the oil change or the process of it, right? You're going to want to mix those in there as well. There's a really cool webpage out there called textoptimizer.com. It's awesome. What it does is you put your page in there, the link to your page in there, you put the keyword phrase that you're trying to optimize for. It reads your website, and then it gives you back suggestion on words you should put in there, right? So essentially what it does is it looks at who's being found for this keyword out there and what words and phrases, what are they talking about on their website, right? So then it turns it inside out for you and says, look, all the other guys that are getting found for oil changes, they're also talking about how many bays they have, right? Or maybe what their turnaround time is. And if that's not on your website, it'll tell you, and it'll say, include these words or pick 15 of these 85 words we've displayed and try to mix them into your website. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about when you dump your thoughts onto the page, reread it, go through it, mix in your word oil changes, run it through a tool like this. And there's other tools out there. This is just a handy one that I like myself personally. And that'll inspire you for other words that you need to mix in. And you'll just kind of rewrite sentences or maybe little paragraphs of your web page. The end result's going to be a much better page. Again, like we keep saying, you can always come back, change it later.
Yeah.
So you don't have to toil over it for hours and hours. But I would definitely write it, go back as a step and make sure your keywords are in there, and then run it through a tool like this, kind of as a final check. This is also assuming that you got spell check enabled and things like that as well, too. You don't want to have those kinds of errors. But then you're going to be in pretty good shape. So with that, you should be able to create or revamp, if you already have a website, the pages that you need. Again, create pages for every main product and service that you have. And just like we said with your images, have friends and family take a look at it, have strangers take a look at it. If you want us to review any of it, just send us some feedback through the show notes page, drop in the link, tell us kind of what you're trying to do, give us a little bit of context on it. We'd be happy to take a look. The last thing, of course, that you can do is run it through our free SEO audit tool. Any page, as many times as you want to use it, it's completely free. It takes about 15 seconds. Plug in the page that you want to be checked, plug in the keyword that you want that page to be optimized for, and you're going to get a report that'll tell you. It'll tell you, are you using H1 tags? Did you use too many tags? Are your keywords in these headline tags? Your keyword wasn't used in your page content. It'll tell you if your image file names had the keyword in it, like we're saying, right? Red balloons, image should be called red balloons.
Right.
It'll tell you all these things that we're talking about here today in a real easy checklist. So check that out. Go to intrix.com, click on the button that says SEO Audit. Again, it takes 15 seconds. It'll show you that audit on page. It'll also instantly email you a PDF of that audit so you can take it and use it later as well.
So I would throw something else out there on that SEO audit, and I think you brought this up last week, but this is really important. If you're going to go into other markets and you're going to do your research and essentially do your search for diesel oil change or whatever the case is, and you see a site that comes up at the top, right?
Yeah.
You can put that site in, or that specific page actually is what you really want to do, right?
Yep.
And run it through this audit tool, and that'll give you some metrics of, okay, how are they doing this in terms, not specifically, but how are they performing in this audit? And then that gives you, in my opinion, that gives you a baseline that you need to shoot for, or a goal that you need to shoot for with your own page against that audit. Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely. It's like I said, why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
You know, see what's working out there in the market. You can't copy anything. That's going to be horrible for you, but you can get inspired, get some ideas.
Right.
You peek under the hood, see what the competition's doing, and it helps you, helps guide you where you want to go with it. So, so check that out. We say it, I think, pretty much every episode, but it's completely free, unlimited number of pages. As long as you copy and paste them, put your keyword in, hit the button, you can just keep running those reports, and it's going to be extremely valuable for you. So,
I know it takes a lot to digest this, but you can do this. Take the action. This might be a podcast you're going to have to listen to a couple times to kind of absorb it. And again, I can't encourage you enough. If you have questions, go ahead and send us some questions. We'll be more than happy to take care of that. And going forward with these podcasts, we'll be taking questions and answering questions.
Absolutely.
Going forward.
Love to do that. And not to sell ourselves. This show is not about promoting ourselves. But at the end of the day, this is a service we provide. If anybody out there is just feeling discouraged and saying, this is just too much for me to do. I thought this would be easy, but it's a little more than I thought. We're here to help. Yep. We're up in Minneapolis. This is what we do. If you need help, we service anywhere in the entire country. So drop us a note in the show notes page. Give us that feedback, phone number, email, whatever it is. Reach out to us.
We're looking for Hawaiian customers. So if anybody's in Hawaii, we'd really like to come out and visit you.
Or deep South Florida on the coast somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially this time of the year for us.
It's pretty cold.
It's snowing again. I think we had an episode a few weeks ago where it was snowing, and it's snowed again. So help us out. So. All right, well, until next week.
See ya.
Take care. All right, everyone, Jesse here again. Wanted to thank you for sticking with this 2-part episode. Hopefully there's a lot of great content on there, a lot of things you can take action on and start making a difference on your website. If you want to grab some of the cheat sheets and some of the guides and links we were talking about, visit intrix.com/episode 7. You're going to find all the links and references there. Also find a link to watch this via video if you want to choose that route. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, you can go out to intrix.com/iTunes, and there you can subscribe and be alerted when the new episodes come out. We'd also love it if you're finding value in this podcast to leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Give us a rating. Last week we shared our first one with you, which was pretty exciting. We got another one here to share this week. This is from Wendy Lister. Wendy gives us a great 5-star review, and Wendy says, "There's so much great information in this podcast. At first, I didn't know what to do with it. I don't own a business currently, but I could see what a positive impact this information would have for any local business owner. And truly, strong local businesses help all of us. It took me about a week to figure out what to do. I am sharing this podcast with the local business owners in my life. First up, my brother, who owns a heating and air company. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work." Wendy, that's awesome. We love the fact that not only did you enjoy the podcast and see some value in it, but that it caused you to think of who else you might want to share this with. And that you shared it with your brother is just awesome. And then that you felt compelled to give us a review, even though it doesn't directly impact you, is awesome and lets us know we're on the right track. So you can give us some feedback, intrix.com/show on the feedback form there. Or again, we'd love for you to go out to iTunes and let us know what you think and share with everybody else too. So, and lastly, I wanted to mention one more time, as we've done throughout this 2-part episode, definitely take your webpage, go out to our free SEO audit tool, intrix.com, click on the free SEO audit button, and run your webpage through our audit. It takes about 15 seconds. Going to give you a great grade, checklist on the page. It's just an awesome resource. Use it as many times as you want, on as many pages as you want for different keywords. And of course, you can also look up what your competitors are doing as well. So that's about it. We'll wrap that up, and we'll see you next week.